All right, listing queens. We are back with another listing queen herself. We are with Laura Malec, top realtor and coach. Hello, Laura.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. We're so excited to have you here. All right, Laura is, I love your approach to how you have grown your successful business. And it's really creating community and approaching that through events and not necessarily through the old client appreciation events. So I'm kind of leaving it wide open. Laura, can you just kind of talk to us about where your purpose comes in with building community?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just got started when I got into real estate. I was in an area where I knew no one. And so in order to find business, you need to know people. So I really made the focus of building relationships. And so through that, I was like, well, what's going on in my life where I can kind of incorporate what's going on and how can I meet more people? And I just found a real beauty in that because at that time I had little kids. I still have them, they're just older. But I really created the finding moms and mom groups and play dates and things like that. And when I started thinking about it really purposefully of like making sure I had that mom date on the calendar, making sure I was going to the library trying to meet someone, making sure I was trying to meet new moms, it really just opened up of how like building relationships can be these small kind of community where people want to do things. And so then I started creating little little parties for my kids because that was kind of like how I wanted to get started. And it just grew from there. So I keep doing the small things, but I realized that people just want to be connected. They want to have a good time. And of course, I expanded it to including like charities, and they love to give back. And so when you can take the time to be that person of creating community, it's going to make you feel good. You're going to strengthen your relationships. You're going to have fun. And then it's going to build your business too.
Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. Okay. Because what you're talking about is exactly what the listing queen life is. Like you are a CEO, you're creating your own way. And I love how you said, I wanted to get my play dates on the calendar, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? We have to mix in me time with business, with family time. So I applaud you for making it work for you. So my question is, some people might say, wow, sounds like a lot. So can you talk us through, because I know that you can do it on an intimate scale, and then you've also thrown, had larger events. Why don't we start with in your brain, like what were you thinking when you were just starting out in an area where you knew no one? Like beyond, okay, I want to have small kids parties, for example, or talk to us about how you put your brain from an idea to fruition.
Good question. I wanted to incorporate my kids because my husband's a firefighter schedule. And so he is gone a lot. So I was like, well, what can I do where I can meet people where, my kids can come and just make it fun? And so then that's when I just realized also like that is more engaging to have conversations of how's it going? I wanted to invite you to this event, whether they could come or not, or like this small gathering. And I just realized it created like all these conversations. And then by doing my thing, I show up on social media. Like I don't want to be a secret real estate agent. And I do show up that I'm doing real estate things. And I saw the beauty of it where I would find the business when I wouldn't even actually be asking for it. And hopefully we can dive deep into that. But when I started out small, I didn't necessarily say this was like the Malec group pumpkin painting party. I just hosted it for the first time for kids. But because I was in front of them, because I contacted them quite a few times before the event, can't wait to see you. Thank you so much for coming. And I showed pictures. It was funny how real estate also got brought up. And so I think that's when it clicked where I was like, the business is with the people. So you need to be with the people and you need to be strengthening those relationships and finding new relationships.
Okay. So I love what you just said. And I don't know if anybody caught this, because I don't know that you even said it was kind of an innuendo, is that you made it mean nothing about you when someone didn't come, right? You extended the invitation and you were excited about extending the invitation. And for those that came, you were excited, you poured into them. Those that didn't, you just kept inviting them and you didn't make it mean anything. Because that's what I think stops a lot of women that, oh, I failed, I guess, Or the other thing that I know we're going to get into is that you didn't just ask once. and be like, oh, well, that sucks. Maybe I'll move on to another idea. You actually have a plan. Okay.
Yes.
But one thing you said it's about conversations. And one thing I always say about in my coaching is conversations are the quickest path to cash. And you just have to figure out what conversations you can have about them. You pour into them and you open yourself up to them. They're going to reciprocate and open themselves up to you. All right. So now I want to approach what you just said. And that is that when people come to your events, you didn't have to say it was your team. You didn't say it was the Malec group. Okay. You didn't have to, because you didn't have the Malec group back then. As you extend and have communication and conversations, then you friend them on Facebook or social media and they see, ooh, she's also a realtor. So you don't even have to bring that up.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll admit I was a secret real estate agent for a very long time. So if there's any of you out there, that this was a great way for me to be in front of people, but not say, I'm a real estate agent, I'm a real estate agent. And I've grown from that, but it just really worked because then I was in front of them and then they saw that I was in real estate.
Yes, yes. And that takes the pressure off, right?
Yes.
All right. So talk to us about, I don't know which way I want. Let's go here. In terms of the touches, okay? Because we don't just invite once. I'm sure you don't just invite once.
No.
Like you have a strategy for pre-event communication and then post-event communication. So can you share a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do one step ahead. One is I decide why I am hosting this small gathering or event. Like you really need to have a why behind it. So if you're just looking for, to strengthen relationships, maybe you're looking to meet new people. Sometimes I do I want to ask for the business, and then this becomes in my touches. That's why I'm bringing it up. And I'm also working on the Malec group is on Google now, and so now I'm working on my reviews because I have reviews everywhere else except here. So really decide why you're hosting this event so that then you can build the touches around that. So we'll just do, if you want to, we'll do ask for business. So if you're kind of looking for business, you really want to do either 4 to 6 weeks out from the event. Anything more than 6 weeks is way too much. The 4-week mark, you can still, I'm not discouraging you if you think you can do something in 2 weeks, but you really need that time. Plus, like you talked about, it's actually the touches. It's never the event itself, although I always want everyone to show up, and I'm always sad when I get some no's because people are busy. But I have to remember that the lead generation came from just having conversations, touching base with them, getting to know what's going on in their life. And then if they get to show up to the event, that's great. And so from the 4 to 6 weeks, I send out a save the date. So you can kind of choose to do whether you want to do by email, phone, text, you do you, but I'm always hey, I'm going to throw, this pumpkin painting party. It's on here, save the date, more details to come. So I'm just it's a touch. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. And then I go a week later and I invite them formally, hey, I want to know who's all coming. So that's where you can decide if you need some kind of RSVP. And I usually do because you want to be building your database. So you want that information. You want their email address. You want a phone number if you don't have it. And so I do, Jot form or Google form is fine. I've done them in Eventbrite link. The biggest thing about events is you have to figure out what works for you, and you're going to figure out what doesn't work and just adjust it. But in there, then I'll just say name, number. And then if I'm purposely looking for business, I'm either going to ask in that form or I'm going to ask at the event. So I might be hey, do you know anyone that's looking to buy or sell in the next year? Yes or no. It's a very passive way to ask. But if you don't ask, the answer is already a no. And that's when I found the power. When I actually chose to ask, I found way more business. And I was okay, I'm just always going to, ask, just because you never know who they know. And then I do, if they RSVP'd, then I look and I'm hey, I'm so glad that you're able to make it. So that's another touch. If not, I'm hey, it's coming up. I hope that I just want to make sure that you got, you saw the pumpkin painting parties coming up. Curious if you guys can make it. So you kind of double check with your RSVPs. Then you send a reminder. Then you have the event. But you want to have anywhere from 4 to 6 touches. And it's a combination of what works for you: phone call, text, and email. So I usually, my plan, if you want to know, is I send an email out to save the date with a pretty graphic. And then I follow up with a text message hey, I hope you saw that we're having this, save the date. And then I go back to email and I start asking for RSVPs. And then I'm on my fourth touch where I'm either saying, awesome, you can make it, or hey, can you make it? And then I send my like 2 reminders, one reminder of like last chance to RSVP, and then can't wait to see you tomorrow, kind of reminding them of any details.
Love it. I love, love, love that. And then post event, talk to me about your strategy for post event, because it's just great.
Yeah, that's the one where you don't want to drop the ball on, because you've worked so hard to have the event, and then you host the event, and of course like the adrenaline's done and you're tired, but like you really want to do those follow-up text messages. And so like you want to time block before the event, during the event, and after the event, to thank them so much for coming. Or again, a lot of times real estate comes up at the events where I don't bring it up. They're like, my mom's moving, I got to talk to you about real estate. Do you sell in this state? Like that's the beauty of it, is I bring them to me and they start talking to me about real estate. But I do all the follow-ups of just thanking them, for coming. If they had any real estate needs, I follow up on that. But I also send an email to everyone that I had invited, just to kind of create, again, like that FOMO, like we missed you, here's what you missed, but maybe you can make the next one. Yeah. And what I think is interesting is that the business has always been, it is from people who have come, but sometimes there's people who they never responded to my events. And at some point I was like, do I stop inviting them? And I remember I sent like my egg hunt and they were like, we can't make that, but we're ready to buy and sell. And I'm like, oh, hi.
Yay.
And they never responded, but like, it's not you. Like we take it personal, and they're just busy. They're doing their own thing. They have their own lives. Like, it's just the touch that is so important and staying top of mind.
It's just perfection. It's so perfection. And I love how you touched on that. Like, initially it is kind of disappointing. And then you think, oh, maybe, I don't know, are they sick of me? But ladies, they're not sick of you. If they're sick of you, they'll unsubscribe, right?
Yes.
Okay, so now I just love that. It was such gold. Ladies, just play that over and over again. That is freaking gold. Thank you for sharing, Laura. So when you wake up, and I'm not talking about if someone initiated a conversation at one of your events, but because of your regularity with events, and that you are, and they're varied, right? Sometimes they get invited to an intimate event. Sometimes it's a family event. Sometimes it's an adult event. Sometimes it's a massive event, right? But the point is now they trust you. They're like, I like her, and I guess she likes me because I'm staying on her list, right? So talk to me about when you get the sudden text or the message, it says, hey, my mom passed away, I need you to sell the house. Like, what is, like, that happens more and more, right? As you stick with the event lead gen pillar. Talk to me about that. Like, what's it like when you wake up and see that?
Well, what I love is that, the whole word lead generation can kind of seem daunting, I guess. And I've done it all, but I get to wake up every day and just talk to people who like, know, and trust me and touch base with them. That makes it fun and exciting too. And when you also do it purposely, like I don't need to do it every day. I don't do it every day from 9/11, but I do make sure I'm touching base with my sphere like weekly. I follow like 2 letters of the week. I'm not sure. Because basically if there's 2 letters of the week in one quarter, you can touch base with everybody. And so it's just a great tool. But what's nice is that like, then it works, like by staying in front of them and having the events, then like your phone is ringing saying, I'm ready. And if you're on the other side and you're looking for it, like stay with it and stick with it, because, it all comes around. But just knowing that I've created that trust and community, like it makes me feel good, and I'm ready to be there for them. And I also know that I did things right of staying top of mind, because we know that people say they would use the same agent, or, they're like, that I had such a good experience, but they just forget, like people just forget. And so that I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right by staying in front of people where they want to keep being connected. They want to refer me. Like that's probably my favorite. They want to refer over, and then at the same time, like we love what we do. And so just knowing that I create experiences and I incorporate kind of getting back to charity, and, seeing like the pictures with Santa that they do, or the pumpkin painting party, or the Pamper Me where I got to give pedicures to my VIP ladies. That's how I choose to kind of spend my marketing dollars. And I also get sponsorships from my lender, title, and things that these events do not cost me a lot of money. I very much keep a budget in mind. And I'm really not putting out a whole lot out of pocket.
I love it. So the leverage of your network, of your tribe, what I call the tribe of professionals. That is so good. You said something that I wanted to touch on further. And now I forget exactly what it was, my menopausal brain. You'll forgive me, but we're going to move on to something else. When you and I talked, because I liked what I saw of you on social media, and you said, one thing is non-negotiable, and that is your mindset. And your brain is a muscle. Your mind is a muscle. And can you just share about that? Because I loved your take on that.
My mind said the brain is a muscle. Yes, I just found it interesting that like your mind works against you and that fear just really creeps in no matter what. Like honestly, every time I host an event, I'm like, what am I thinking? Or if I'm trying to go bigger or smaller, like, and so I think when you just like normalize that is just your brain protecting you and your first thought, and also that like everything is just a learning curve. And so when I embraced that, I just realized that nothing's ever going to look completely perfect, but I'm never going to know unless I do action and I get out there, and I can always adjust. And I think often like we're looking at other people's business and thinking that it looks so perfect, but like behind the scenes, it's just that messy. Like you're doing everything correct. You're just going to learn, and things are always evolving and things are always changing. And so I always just realized it has to start with my mindset. So again, like just being super kind of focused, what's, my intention with it. And then also just like my mindset around the events is that it's just for me it's a reason to touch base with everybody and a fun reason to touch base with everybody. And that if my mind's in the right spot, then everything around will also kind of fall in place. And
Right.
that even if the event or if something's not going my way, it's just a matter of adjusting and learning, and that's when like that's like your growth. So as long as you can fall in love with your journey, with your life. So I fell in love with the process of like, oh well, now that I did this, I know that that's not what I'm supposed to do, but I know I can just adjust it for next time, because I'm more proud that I'm doing the messy action versus like not doing anything because I'm so afraid of it not looking perfect.
Oh, I freaking love that. And I call that evaluating in my coaching. When you take an action and you decide, you're using that word decision and intention like over and over, ladies, please hear that. Because if you don't proactively decide, you're the CEO of your business. It's like a personal pet peeve of mine when realtors are saying, well, I'm self-employed. Really? No, you're a CEO. Do you just want to give yourself a job? I don't. I'm a CEO, right? And a CEO is decisive, and they decide what their path. And these events are, I'm going to ask you a question about if they're your only lead gen. I doubt that they are. But it's a big part, the decision that you make, and then you take the action and you're excited about it and you get a result. And then what happens is you get a result, you evaluate what went well, because you want your brain to go, like you said, your mind is a muscle. You want to train your brain to go to the positive. Ooh, look what I did. Look, this worked so well. And then you could say, uh-oh, how could I have made it better? Boom, evaluate. Next time it's going to be even better.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's really good. And I think I saw somewhere somebody called you a mind shift maven.
Yeah.
I love that. So that is very, very good. I want to just ask you, when you are at your event, and I know there's all different kinds. What is your brain when you go in there? Like you're driving to your event, and what are you ready for? What is you really, what is your heart ready to do when you get there?
I'm ready to give an awesome experience. I like experiences, so I guess that's probably where it comes from. So I'm just excited to make people feel really good and have really good quality family time. I guess that's a really good question. So that's what's really important to me is experiences and family time. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about, because usually that's what it's around, of just creating some kind of, fun experience and to enjoy life. So quite honestly, like I feel like we have our system where it's I keep things simple. I think I learned that too. Like just simplify everything that you do. Don't make it complicated. So simplifying it. I also think it's really fun to get to see everybody. I think it's really hard when you're working with a buyer or a seller and you're talking to them, for 6 to 8 weeks or, a couple months, and then you talk to them a lot less. And so this is like an easy way to check in versus like, hey, how are you? It's like, hey, I'm hosting this event, I would love to see you. But it's always just so fun to catch up with them. And now that I've been doing it for a few years, like, I've watched the married couple that didn't have kids and now they have a couple kids. I've watched the older generation, like helping their parents now having to like downsize, like you get to be a part of their lives. And so all the time, my biggest goal is like, did they have fun? Did they have a good
Yes.
time? That's really honestly my goal.
I love it. And that's who you are. And that's why, ladies, this whole summit, you're learning from each of these speakers. They chose their path. So that is why I have handpicked these people, because I want you to say, oh, I resonate with her. I resonate with her. So you said that the experience. And when you want to be a listing queen, no doubt you have a seller client experience that you've already proactively figured out that you and your team are delighted to give to your homeowners as they decide to sell with you, correct?
Yes.
So it really is about communication, as you say, conversations and the customer experience. So talk to us about so is this your main lead gen pillar? And then you have others, I'm sure your social media is wonderful. Like talk to us about as the team leader, because you're the team leader. How do you do each of your teammates get to choose what their main lead gen is, or are they on board with your events? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I'm a highly leveraged solo agent. My husband is on my team. And he's
Okay.
licensed, but I'm the main, like we don't operate as a team. We operate that works well for us. That's how I do my business.
Excellent.
But I am like the sole lead generation. And then he really helps with the showings and the buyers and actually the agent to agent conversation, because I would rather work with the clients and the customers.
Wow.
But mainly it's just really focusing on the sphere. And so I do, again, like I make sure I call in like my database touches. And I learned this because everyone always says like, talk to your database, talk to your sphere. And I was like, I built the sphere, but then I'm like, what do I say to them? Because I was a little bit more of a secret agent. I'm like, I don't want to ask if they know anyone that's, they'll come to me. And so how I was doing business was through social media, showing up, doing real estate. And then I was doing open houses at the time. So then when COVID hit in 2020, my main lead generation of open houses, because I was hosting them like a boss, was going out the door. And I was like, holy crap, like, how am I going to find my business? And I was like, all right, well, I guess I have no choice but to focus on my sphere. And so I did. And all I did was take 2 letters of the alphabet and I checked in. And my first conversations were, how are you? And I did it through Facebook Messenger and text message. And my business doubled that year. But
Yay.
doing way less, like all the other 80% messy of me being busy, all I did was have phone conversations with my database, homeschooling my child, coaching agents, and my business doubled. I was like, oh, so this is what they mean when they say focus on the 20%.
Yes. Oh
So
my.
honestly, I've really embraced that of like, I believe in doing less, but being very, very consistent and purposeful on it. So I keep those conversations up, and that's where I'm making sure I touch base with them quarterly. And then that's why it's fun to host the event. So I usually have 2 big events. So that's at least like, in that quarter, I'm either inviting them to the event or there's another touch somehow. And then I create the small, like intimate ones too. So I do that. And then I incorporate pop buys. Like I'm about how do you make people feel is what I've noticed. I've done everything like of spending a lot of money on people or spending a lot of money on the process, like helping them get their house clean. And at the end of the day, it was the small personal touches that mean more than like that big, wow, this is what I did for you. And so I just really am like, okay, how can I make people feel awesome every day, I guess, basically.
Oh, I
And so
love
then I do
that.
like a lot of pop buys.
Yes, I love that. You just touched on so much that is simplify. Ladies, what you want to ask yourself is, how can I simplify what I'm doing? Like I just heard this amazing woman tell me that she did less and doubled her income. Ding, ding, ding. There's something there, right? So, and I believe that women, we were taught the lie of we're such good multitaskers. Ooh, and we have 15 balls in the air. Oh, isn't that great? And we brag to our friends. Oh, I'm doing this and that, like it's a badge of honor. Heck no. Guess what I did all weekend? I hung out with my family and loved every minute of it. That's what's available to these women, that these thousands of people that are here. So you ask yourself how to simplify. And in fact, you didn't ask yourself. You were forced to during COVID. And I love that you did it your way, because I've had other people, and what I trained my agents to do was to be the community leader and get on Zoom and offer Zoom chats, because I know I got kind of stressed. I'm like, I'm pretty much a boss, and I'm thinking, let's see, I'm not allowed to leave my house. This doesn't resonate. Like I had to see a counselor. I was so worked up about it. Because, I had never seen it. Like none of us had ever seen it. So I just love that. Also, I cannot let you go. I know our time is short, but I cannot let you go until I ask this question. And I did know that you're with your husband. So I apologize for that.
No
I'm
worries.
meeting so many people. Okay. So I worked with my husband, and it is not a simple it is not an easy dynamic to sleep in the bed, work all day, rear your kids, everything. So how's it going for you in that dynamic with your husband working together?
Well, it works really great. I feel like our situation is very unique. In the fact that like he's still a firefighter, by trade. So that is his, sole income for the family. I feel like the dynamic would be a little bit different if we were just in real estate together and had a little bit more of that pressure. But knowing like we have that firefighter income and then knowing that we have the real estate income. But I mean, it really works. I think the biggest thing honestly I can say is that find out what other people are doing in real estate, but then decide if it resonates with you. And I feel like so often I was told like real estate should look like this, like you should be working, these hours or lead gen this way. And every time I try to form into that little what it should look like, it just didn't work for me. So the same thing with him and I, like we tried to like, you take these buyers and I'll take these sellers, and it didn't work. And so really like we're in it together. The clients meet both of us. We have like where I excel at the beginning, get them all going, set up, then I toss them to him. He does all the showings, then he tosses it back. And like that is really what works for us, is like being together. So I would say the only thing is like, we randomly sometimes will bring up business and I'm like, wait, I'm shopping with my daughter. I don't want you to tell me that the appraisal came back right now. So definitely working on those boundaries, because when you're with them all the time, like, work can just come up. But otherwise, I mean, it's a really great fit for us.
I love it. And you know why it's a great fit? Because you made it so. I just, ladies, there are so many gold nuggets here. I want you to really understand that you are in control. I mean, look at Laura. She evidently moved to an area she didn't know anyone. She got her license. That's exactly what happened to me. And my path is very different than Laura's. But you know what? It works. And that's the point. Do not fit yourself into whoever your favorite person is here out of these 22 people. Don't think, okay, because I really liked her, I want to do it her way. No, you can be inspired, right? You can be inspired by Laura and then make it your own way, right? Okay, so final thoughts. What would you like to tell? Like there's women on here because there's over 2,000 women. So there's women on here who maybe just got their license. There's others who are making like 70 and they can't quite crest over to 100. There's those others that are making over 250 and they're miserable. Like pick one of those and just speak to the camera and just choose whoever you want to speak to with a final thought on becoming a listing queen, because I love your message.
I think it actually can resonate with everyone we discussed a little bit, but I think it really goes to all the three groups of what are you doing that's working? What are you doing that you enjoy? And it's okay if it makes you a little uncomfortable, but enjoy. And how can you expand on that? And create it, like take what we said today, but create it to your own. So the one that's, burnt out, like you can probably be doing less and then make the outreach more kind of for the events. Like I have the touches, I have the pictures, I have the social media. Like I really am like, how can I do this one thing and make it have a gazillion legs that will benefit the business and the community? But that being said, really finding like what you like, and then how can you incorporate more people, because people want to be in your world. They really do. And I think it took me a long time to really kind of think about that. But people crave relationships, they crave community. And so if that works for you, like what are you doing that you can meet more people, whether it's just joining like a running group, joining a yoga group, creating it. And like the other thing too is like think about the what and not the how. So many times people are like, well, I want this big client appreciation event, but how would I do that? Just focus on the what and everything will fall into place. And so like, how can you get there? Like you might not go from 0 to 100, but like my first event was 8 kids and I very much appreciate that. And now I host events that have 100 to 150 people there, but I still host the small one. So don't be afraid to start small and don't be afraid to push yourself to go big, I guess you could say.
I love that. It all sits on the intention. It all sits on the intention and being open to grow. And that's what we are as entrepreneurs. Thank you so much, Laura. This has been enlightening. How can people find you?
The best place probably on Facebook, honestly, at Laura Malec. And then, of course, I have my website. So it's lauramalec.com. And that's where I have a lot of mindset, time blocking, being more purposeful with your time and things like that. You can find me there as well and stay connected.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura.